Well, for their
Good Tuesday, everybody. Hopefully, you're having a wonderful evening. And do I have a good one for you today? So, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh was in Toronto a couple of days ago and definitely did not have the best of times answering some questions at his press conference in front of Loblaws. It definitely seemed like nature didn't even want him there, so I don't know how well he's going to do in Toronto. Well, with no further ado, here's the question and answer period.
question here. Hi, it's Sean O'Shea with Global News. Leader, I'm just wondering, this, I don't think there was an admission of liability on the price fixing. It's a cash payout, basically. And it took almost a decade to go to work its way through. Does this just become a cost of doing business for grocery store chains like these if eventually you're going to have to pay, but along the way, you can make more money than otherwise you would have?
Absolutely. And that's the problem. What it's become is the penalties are so weak that these large corporations know they can just rip off people, and the small fines they have to pay, especially when they're stretched out over a long time, just the cost of doing business. That's why we're saying we've got to change the rules. The rules have been written by liberals and conservatives, by Justin Trudeau and Pierre Poilievre and their parties. And those rules allow for these rich corporations to rip you off. Like, this is clear. There was bread. It's not a, this is something we know. I guarantee that we know that they actually engaged in something that's against the law. They broke the law. And in this case, crime pays. It pays for these corporations to break the law because they were able to make massive amounts of profits. Like I mentioned, $5 billion collectively. And what was the penalty for that? Well, the penalty through the laws written by the government, were very minor. The biggest company got only $50 million in fines. Like I said, 5 cents compared to ripping off people to the tune of $50. That is outrageous. And the fact that people have to go to court to get the settlement is also outrageous. We shouldn't rely on citizens having to go to court to fight for justice. That is wrong. And because it's taken so long, not an admission of guilt, like you mentioned, this again shows that crime pays. Crime pays for corporations like Loblaws. They can get away with it. But we can change that. That's what I'm talking about. We can change that by putting in place severe sanctions. One of the examples I mentioned is, what if the penalty, if you made $5 billion, what if the penalties, like we proposed in a law that I put forward in Parliament, was $15 billion in fines? Then no corporation would dare rip off Canadians if they were facing that level of jeopardy to lose $15 billion. Then we're talking about a severe deterrence that would stop these companies from ripping people off. But that's what I'm talking about when I say, let's change the rules. Let's make it so that crime doesn't pay. Let's make it so these corporations can't rip off Canadians. That's what I want to change when I talk about changing the rules.
A brief follow-up, please. What's a consumer to do? You were in the grocery store just now. You brought back the small basket of goods, whether it's the cost of food that way or whether it's the excessive price of the bread. I mean, people have to eat. People have to feed their families. What's a consumer to do if the bread was too expensive? Eat less, shop somewhere else? What's the solution?
Well, this is a really important question. If we were talking about the price of shoes, people could put off the price of buying shoes. If there was a big increase and shoe companies were gouging us, people could put off buying shoes. You could say, you know what, my shoes are a bit worn out. Maybe I can go an extra year with them. But with groceries, you can't do that. There's no luxury of saying I'm going to put off buying groceries. People have to eat. And that's why I'm saying it shouldn't be on consumers. I can't expect a consumer to go up against a billion dollar corporation. We can't expect people to go up against, really, there's just 5 major corporations that own the majority of grocery stores you go to. We're talking about Loblaws, Sobeys, Metro, Walmart, and Costco. That's really it for most Canadians. I can't expect an everyday family to be able to do something about that. How are they going to fight back against these large corporations? I mean, luckily, some people got together and did a class action, but that's not the solution here. So that's what we're saying. That is our job. Government should be defending people against corporations ripping them off. We need to have stronger rules to protect consumers, not the profits of these corporations. And really, Justin Trudeau and Pierre Poilievre, that's what they've been doing for the past number of years. They've allowed these corporations to rip you off, and we're seeing the results. Record high grocery prices. That's what I want to change. People cannot do this on their own. They need to elect governments that are going to stand up for them. You Democrats, me and Norm, we're going to fight for you. We're going to take on these large corporations and make sure they stop ripping you off.
Yeah, I don't believe you, Jagmeet. I do not believe for a second that the guy who wears a Rolex to all of these meetings and all these talks that he's going to be the one to defend us against massive corporations. And the guy who doesn't say anything about taxes imposed on the distribution of food, the the farming, right? The creation of food, probably doesn't even know how food is grown or a cow is raised. So all he complains about is the low-hanging fruit of, it's the rich people's corporations' fault. And he doesn't even talk about other corporations, just grocers. That's it. He doesn't talk about the tech corporations that screw us over with this, with all the identity theft and all the data they take off of their users. They don't go after any other company, just grocer. So I'm not saying it's fair what the grocer's doing. It's terrible. It's terrible that they're doing this. But I don't think what Jagmeet Singh puts forward is the best way to combat this. Heftier fines would be better. But 3 times, that's never going to happen. That's ridiculous.
We will now take questions via Zoom. Nous allons maintenant prendre des questions via Zoom. Je vous invite à utiliser la fonction lever la main pour poser votre question et question de suivi. Please use the raise hand function to ask your question. I would also invite you to please speak very loudly to counter the Toronto traffic that you see in the background. So we will go ahead and start with David Aiken from Global News. Please go ahead.
And why would you do a press conference in front of busy traffic and around crazy amount of wind? Nobody knows that's actually a Loblaws who's actually watching this. It's a terrible location.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for taking our questions. Appreciate it. And Jagmeet, I want to take you, you're sort of near the bottom of Yonge Street, all the way back up Yonge Street to where you were earlier this week in Northern Ontario. Could I get your sense of the challenge you and other parties are facing with this radically redrawn electoral map, ridings ripped up, Indigenous communities not sure where they're going, etc.? You were up there, I understand, rebuilding relationships with Indigenous communities, union groups. I understand you're, 5,000 feet underground in a mine. Give me your sense, what's the challenge for parties like yours with this radically redrawn electoral map in the North?
Thanks for the question. Yeah, so it is really difficult in the North, particularly. There's already massive ridings. We're talking ridings that are thousands and thousands of square kilometers. So we got massive ridings already, and the new riding distribution has made them even bigger. So the riding I was just visiting, Timmins James A, which will change in name, but that riding has gained a massive amount of more territory to cover, and so it is a challenge. But it's an important one. We've got to make sure we reach out to people. So we spent time speaking with Indigenous communities. I met with 3 different municipalities and the mayors of each of those municipalities to hear from them on the ground. Met with community groups that are dealing with things like housing and homelessness. So for me, it's really important to have a genuine relationship. When I go to a community, I want to hear from the people on the ground that are working at the problems that the community is faced with. And I want to hear from them on their challenges and the struggles, so I can come up with some genuine solutions. And so that was the important work we did. We did go down a mine, and one of the folks that were working in the mine mentioned that we were down almost 6,000 feet, and said it was the equivalent of like 4 or 5 CN towers deep into the earth. So we've got a really robust mining industry in this country, and it's important for leaders to see what that's like. So I was able to go underground. I met with mining community members, workers, and businesses in the past, but this is my first time going underground, so it was a pretty incredible experience. But again, this is a part of my job. This summer, I spent the time meeting with people, hearing them, so that we can come up with real solutions for their problems.
And thinking of the politics of this,
I'm glad I had the audio off for a little while because I was laughing that whole time. So first you said, like, we have a lot of mines here in Canada and we're building lots of mines. Yes, we do have lots of mines here in Canada already, but ever since Trudeau's gotten in, we haven't had one mine built. We've had, I think, 3 mines that were on the books when the Conservatives left power and have not been approved yet, and 1 mine was canceled because it was taking too long. So congratulations to that, Trudeau. You're really helping us out with the mining sector. And I love how Jagmeet saying things that it's he should highlight that. Oh, he's the only leader who's really getting down and dirty with the common folk down in the mines, and that's my job to go do that and talk to the miners. You've been leader for 3 years, and he says he's only been down in the mines once. Like, that's his first time. You didn't think to go maybe your first go around before you became leader, or when you became leader and you were trying to get into parliament, you didn't go down in those mines? Of course not. Like, why would a person like yourself dirty your hands with the common folk? But that's just my opinion. And it seems now that a bunch of his MPs aren't going up for re-election, and a bunch of these by-elections are happening. I guess another by-election in Quebec is happening because NDP MP isn't going up for re-election. That he actually figured out that Jagmeet has to get his hands dirty, has to shake hands and kiss babies with the common folk to beg them for his their vote because they're doing so poorly.
Region of the country. I'll put it to you, this is unlike a lot of other parts of Ontario. This is real blue-orange switcher territory from Kenora right through to Charlie's Riding and Timmins. You're going to be, I think, mostly trying to make sure Liberals are not going to the Conservative side. Poilievre's going to be up in that part of the world next week. What were you saying to mayors, voters in Northern Ontario to make sure they come to the orange team and they don't go to the blue team?
Well, one of the things that was pointed out to me was that Poilievre had been up in that community a number of times, maybe 4 or 5 times. And in my one visit, I spent more time than he had spent in his 4 visits there, just to give you a sense of the lack of genuine interaction for Pierre Poilievre and how I take it seriously to meet with people when I went. So that was one contrast. The other thing that I heard from people, and they were really worried, was that they need investments in their communities. They need investments in affordable housing. And they're worried that what Conservatives propose and what Pierre Poilievre is proposing is to cut those investments. I remember speaking with one of the leaders in the municipal level. He said, what we've heard from developers is without government investment, they're going to build market homes. The market homes are just too expensive, even for people with good jobs. And I met with people who've got great jobs in the mine. But the cost for a market home is just way too high. And builders, that's what they're going to build. Market homes, luxury condos, that's what they build. And they can't be expected to build affordable unless there's real investment. And so they're worried that Conservatives, what they're proposing is going to make it even harder. A lot of these communities need investments in infrastructure. A lot of the infrastructure is aging. We saw the impacts of the climate crisis here in Toronto and across this country. We need infrastructure that's ready for not just the new infrastructure we need to keep up with the times, but also with the extreme weather that we're going through, we need an infrastructure that can deal with that extreme weather. So they're worried about the cuts to infrastructure. Healthcare is already a struggle in the north, and they're worried that Conservatives want to cut healthcare. And we know that Pierre Poilievre wants to cut healthcare. He wants to have the last federal minister of health. And already that's a big challenge. We know it's a challenge here in Toronto. The healthcare system was starved by Doug Ford, and a federal government that cuts even further is going to mean two things that.
Holy crow, NDP. I have to call you out with this one right now. We're trying to listen to this press conference of yours, and I know I get a lot of flack about my audio, but that's because I'm just some random dude who complains about politics on the internet. You're an actual federal party of Canada, and you can't get your audio under control. None of us can hear what the heck you're saying. So get your shit together.
That people Toronto worried about about it. We want to give them hope. There is a better option. We're going to take on groceries, invest in affordable homes that you can actually afford, and make sure that we make the investments that communities need to be able to thrive.
So Jagmeet Singh says, like, Pierre Poilievre have only been to Northern Ontario 4 times, but he was only there for a little while, didn't do as much as I did, yada, yada, yada. Like, Jagmeet, you do know that Pierre Poilievre's Conservative Party is way bigger than your own, and he has the whole country as leader of the opposition to visit. He has to go from coast to coast to coast, where you only have like a couple of provinces you have to visit. I'm going to call you out about how many times do you visit Alberta? You probably visit Alberta once a year for Stampede, just because all of the leaders, except for Trudeau, apparently do. And and Pierre Poilievre's been there, I think, 4 times already, and had massive rallies. So, and yeah, okay, Pierre Poilievre's been there 4 times, and now he's going next week. So I don't think you should be calling him out about it. But I do like, finally, the NDP is calling out our infrastructure and how we haven't been keeping up our infrastructure in our cities to keep up with the times. That's why Toronto's being flooded. That's why, we need better infrastructure in our wilderness to help with these forest fires as well. So, I do agree with him on that. So every once in a while, Jagmeet saying it's a good point.
Is for the leader today, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, essentially pointed to the recent killing of London, Ontario teen Brianna Broadfoot to what he says is the failure of Liberal and NDP policies. He's also blaming the rise in crime to Liberal NDP policies. I guess just, what's your response to that?
Sorry, we have a great location for the press conference, but there's a lot of sound in the background. So my speaker here that we've got, I could not hear you. So I'm going to ask you maybe to try one more time. We just did a little switch up here. This might work.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's way better.
Okay. Today, Pierre Poilievre, the Conservative leader, he said the recent killing of a London, Ontario teen, Brianna Broadfoot, shows that the Liberal and NDP policies are failing, and he is also blaming the rise in crime to the failure of Liberal NDP policies. I just wanted to know what your response to those accusations are.
Well, first of all, when we're talking about the opioid crisis, it is heartbreaking that we are losing so many Canadians to that crisis. It is heartbreaking because these are our neighbors, these are children, these are sons and daughters. So we're losing so many lives. And what I believe, what we need to do is, first of all, we got to save lives. We got to do whatever we can to ensure that people aren't dying. We got to save lives. Secondly, we got to make sure people get the help that they need. And finally, we got to do everything possible to get the toxic garbage, the toxic drugs off our streets. That's what I'm focused on. What I've heard from Pierre Poilievre is a lot of playing politics with people's lives, making not actually focused on solutions to save people's lives, not focused on getting people the help they need, and not focusing on border, which the Conservatives had massive cuts in staffing, so that we're up against a very leaky border where there are dangerous items coming into our country because of the cuts the Conservatives and Pierre Poilievre brought in that have not allowed for our borders to be as secure as they should be. And so I question the genuine nature of Pierre Poilievre. He's not serious about this. This is for him playing politics. This is for him about dividing people. We're focused on saving lives, getting people the help they need, and getting the toxic garbage off our streets.
Okay. I don't really get where he was going with this. It's Pierre Poilievre's fault that the opioid crisis is so bad because of our leaky border. Because That's Trudeau's field. That's the federal government, and we had a problem with it until maybe 28 no around 2016 when Donald Trump came into power. I think it was 2016 when Donald Trump came into power. Justin Trudeau sent out a tweet saying, "Don't worry, folks. Canada's." It wasn't this word for word, but it's like, "Don't worry, folks. Canada's open to you all," or Canada will take you in if you want to get away from the United States. Anyways, he declared that the borders were open to anyone who didn't want to be part of Trump's America, and our people just flooded our border from the United States. And not like, these weren't the, how do I say this? They weren't all the good American citizens that follow the rules, and they just didn't like Donald Trump, so they wanted to come to Canada. They were people whose immigration status were ending. They were illegal immigrants. They were people hiding in the United States who fled to Canada's border. So, and Pierre Poilievre has never been in any position of power to affect our border. Like I said earlier, he was shadow minister of finance, and then he was housing minister. So, not in that order. But yeah, so what does housing minister have to do with the border? What does shadow finance minister have to do with the border? And they haven't been in power. So what you're saying is stupid, Jagmeet. Anyways, let's continue on.
And I think it's important for us to across the city of Toronto. We're really looking at opportunities to show people that New Democrats are a real choice for them. They've been let down. People have been let down by Justin Trudeau. And I think it's important for people to know that. So I'm going to make sure Norm and our team here in Toronto, we let people know Justin Trudeau had the opportunity to solve a lot of the problems that Toronto is faced with, but has let you down. They had the power, but they let you down. And New Democrats have used our power to help you out. And in this next election, they got a choice. Out of touch liberals, Justin Trudeau has let you down and failed you, or conservatives who want to cut and gut the programs that people need. So I think that's out of the question for Torontonians. And then New Democrats who want to invest in solutions. We want to take on corporate greed. We want to build homes that people can actually afford. We want the housing market that works for people, not for rich developers, not for rich investors. And I'm very confident that this is something that Canadians need. This is something that Torontonians need. And with excellent candidates like Norm Di Pasquale in this riding, and with our great candidates across the city, we can show a real option for people that want some hope. That's what I want to give. I want to give hope to people, and we can do that.
And I like how he just dismisses the Conservatives. He's like, "Oh, Conservatives just want gut stuff." So Torontarians aren't going to vote for the Conservatives. Hey, Jagmeet, did you not just see that a prominent Liberal Toronto riding voted Conservative for the first time in like 40 years? So don't be all like, "Oh yeah, I'm not even going to consider that people in Toronto are going to vote Conservative." You should be quaking in your boots that Conservatives just might win your Toronto riding.
And Norm, Norm's going to jump in. What are you going to do to win in this riding?
Yeah, you bet. I mean, back in 2021,
I don't care about you, Norm. And that's about it for the rest of his press conference. So that's all I have for you. Let me know about how you think the NDP are going to do in Toronto nowadays. Are they going to rock it? Are they going to suck? Are they going to fail terribly? I don't know. And if you like this content, please subscribe. Trying to get to 200 subscribers by the end of next month. So that would be awesome, and have a great day.